Hello, everybody. I'm a little I'm a little behind in getting prepped for this because we're doing something a little bit different than usual. Hi, I'm the ADHD preacher. Uh, the White House announced a few hours ago an initiative that they're calling America Prays, and I wanted to take a moment, as it's live and fresh, to respond and react. I did a first pass over it, and I have thoughts, I have feelings. But I want to take another crack at it. I want to give it some attention in just a few moments, and have all of us have an opportunity to hear exactly what the White House is thinking about prayer and about faith in public life, specifically in response to the 250th anniversary of the United States and the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So in just a moment here, I'm going to get started with that. I am going to fix one thing that got messed up in an earlier process. So I don't have lights behind me the whole time, but in a moment here, we're going to set this up, and then we're all just going to have a chance to read this through. Here we go. So, if you saw me do any of these with some of the White House's other proclamations and executive orders, this is the same mood, same moment of me. I'm just going to read it, and then I will have an opportunity to comment on it a little bit later. But for now, America 250, America Prays. An invitation to prayer and rededication of the United States as one nation under God. God bless America. In preparation for the 250th birthday of our country, between 1776 and 2026, I'm not going to let you... Open Studio. Warning. See, I think I'm streaming. Bitrate is lower than recommended. Okay, well, thanks. Let's keep going. In preparation for the 250th birthday of our country, between 1776 and 2026, I'm not going to let them compete. They get to have their own videos. This is my video. As we prepare to celebrate 2.5 centuries of freedom, I am inviting America's great religious communities to pray for our nation and for our people. From the beginning, this has always been a country sustained and strengthened by prayer. So important. If we bring back religion... No. So important. If we bring religion back stronger, you're going to see everything get better and better and better. You are going to see it get better and better. So, as we chart our course for the next 250 years, let us rededicate ourselves to one nation under God. President Trump in Iowa, July the 3rd, 2025. The ask. What if 1 million Americans dedicated 1 hour a week to praying for our country and our people? The invitation. Will you join with at least 10 people to meet each week for 1 hour to pray for America? The opportunity. As we celebrate 250 years of freedom, this is an opportunity to rededicate ourselves to the principles that gave birth to this land of liberty. As George Washington famously said in his farewell address, of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports. In vain would that man claim the tribute of patriotism who should labor to subvert these great pillars of human happiness, these firmest props of the duties of men and citizens. This dedicated time of prayer is not only for our nation, but for its people, because a nation is only as strong as its citizens. Resources and ideas for times of prayer. Historic prayers, sermons, presidential proclamations, etc. View here. Follow the common ACTS prayer model. Adoration, contrition, thanksgiving, supplication. Open the prayer meeting with scripture about God's sovereignty and nations. 2 Chronicles 7:14, Psalm 33:12, 1 Timothy 2:1-4. Organize the time of prayer by different subjects, such as prayer for government leaders, cultural renewal, protection of freedom, families, individuals, etc. Weekly prayer challenge. Each member commits to pray daily for a specific issue or person. Pray for individuals in your community by name. Join online prayer communities such as Hallow, Pray.com, and many others. This is the list of prayers and proclamations, which we're going to get to in a moment. Initial participating organizations: Salem Media Group, Samaritan's Purse, National Religious Broadcasters, the Southern Baptist Convention, Pray.com, Hallow, Free Chapel Church, Gainesville, Georgia, Intercessors for America, 180 Church, Detroit, Michigan, Alex Brusowitz, many, many, many more. Sign up for updates and local alerts. Phone number, first name, etc. This from the White House. All right. And now further. Prayers and proclamations. These are, and I'm just going to read the top line and say these are the prayers and proclamations, and then I'm going to go back and talk a little bit more about the smaller pieces. Prayers and proclamations throughout American history. Contents: an introduction, Cape Henry landing at Jamestown in 1607, the embarkation of the Pilgrims in 1620, the Thanksgiving in 1621, the first prayer in Congress in 1774, and actually, come to think of it, on it, let's zoom this in, and also we might need to zoom the other thing in as well. This is really, really quite badly done, team. It is not, I'll tell you what, I'm just going to have to, yeah, because they've got it in an iframe, which means that I can't resize it to be sort of human readable in any sensible way. All right, here we are. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Prayers and proclamations throughout American history. I may have to go back and fix the bitrate later. If I can. I don't know that I have the power. I'll work on it later. Prayers and proclamations. Contents: an introduction. A series of prayers from the 17th century, the first prayer in Congress in 1774, government-issued calls to prayer from founding fathers and public leaders, general orders from the president, George Washington, between 1776 and 1783. He wasn't president for a chunk of that, let's be clear. Prayer at the Constitutional Convention in 1787, Jewish blessing for the government in honor of President Washington, 1789, John Quincy Adams' Independence Day address, President Lincoln's call for a day of humiliation, fasting, and prayer, President Roosevelt at D-Day, the Armed Forces Prayer Book in 1951, President Eisenhower's inauguration, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s prayers, 1963, the Apollo space program in the 60s and 70s, Billy Graham at the 69 presidential inauguration, and President Bush's address in 2001. There are no prayers here from the last 20 years, and there's only one from the last 50. Just going to tuck that in there. Let us read this introduction, shall we? From the birth of our nation, America has been strengthened and sustained by people of prayer. From battlefield chaplains at Valley Forge to hymns sung in slave cabins and prayers in pioneer homes, Americans have turned time and again to the moral ruler of the universe in times of triumph and travail. This document gathers such moments, and in doing so it affirms that the strength of the American spirit lays not exclusively in her ideas, but in the faith that undergirds them. These 17 moments of prayer and faith offer compelling evidence of the enduring presence and formative role of faith within the fabric of American public life. Far from being peripheral or incidental, these events underscore how belief in divine providence, the words of Scripture, and the practice of public prayer have shaped the character of American institutions, guided moments of national crisis, and informed the moral imagination of the American people. As we celebrate 250 years of freedom, citizens of all backgrounds and beliefs have an opportunity to rededicate themselves to the principles that gave birth to this land of liberty. As George Washington famously said in his farewell address, of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports. In vain would that man claim the tribute of patriotism who should labor to subvert these great pillars of human happiness, these firmest props of the duties of men and citizens. These public prayers and proclamations not only encourage reflection on the past, but invite the current generation to consider the indispensable role of faith in sustaining civic life, moral order, and national purpose as we prepare to usher in the next 250 years of American greatness. Today, countless faith communities continue the tradition of coming together to pray for our nation. This compilation of prayers throughout America's history is intended to serve as a resource for encouragement, unity, and prayer to Americans of faith. All right, team. Let's take this from the top. An invitation. So, America prays. An invitation to prayer and rededication of the United States as one nation under God. Oh, thank God it wasn't open. Let's look for just a moment here at the Religious Landscape Study by the Pew Research Center. This is the gold standard study on the faith composition of the United States, using surveys and other resources to help understand exactly what Americans believe. Per the most recent landscape study in 2023, 62% of the people of the United States identify as Christians. That is a majority. It is not quite enough to override a presidential veto in the Senate. It is a big contingent. It is not most, it is most people. It is certainly not all people. 62% of citizens of the United States identify as Christians. 7% identify with other religions. 29% identify as religiously unaffiliated. In a democratic society, for us to say that we are one nation under a God shuts out 36% of our people. Just locks them out of the conversation. 36% of people do not claim belief in a God. Or if they do, it's not this God, not the God that I believe in, the God that I worship, the God to whom I pray, the God that I feel motivates and moves me in my life. But that's me. And critically, I love living in a country where no one gets to tell me how I worship God. That is solely down to my personal determination and to the consensus that I build with other people of good faith. No one gets to tell me how I am a Christian in government. No one in my government has anything to say about how I worship, where I worship, when I worship. It is a fundamental founding principle of our nation. Congress shall make no law. And yet, 62% identify as Christians. And I will stand up and say that if we need to take a vote of all the Christians on whether or not we think this is a good idea, I don't. I vote no. This is not a good idea. This will not build unity. This is divisive and hurtful and unhelpful. One nation under God. From everything I've heard described, Mr. President, Mr. Vance, Mr. Vice President, from everything I've heard you all say about the God that you worship, I don't want to be part of one nation under your God. Doesn't sound very much like Jesus. Very little resemblance to Jesus, the God that I hear you were talking about. And that's the God that I want. God bless America. In preparation for the 250th birthday of our country, as we prepare to celebrate 2.5 centuries of freedom, of freedom, of freedom. I am inviting America's great religious communities to pray for our nation and for our people. Y'all, I don't want to speak for my Muslim or Buddhist brothers and sisters. Any of my kinfolk in any of the non-Abrahamic religions. And really don't want to speak for my Jewish kinfolk either. I have some right to speak on behalf of some Christians. Prayer is not solidly a part of everybody's expression of faith or religion. It's not an important concept to like a lot of people. Despite the fact that it's important to me, assumptive, presumptuous. This is deeply presumptuous to say that we're inviting religious communities to pray for our nation. That's not how many people worship. That's not how many people interact with the divine. From the beginning, this has always been a country strengthened and sustained by prayer. Sure. Okay. Fine. Okay. So important. If we bring religion back stronger, you're going to see everything get better and better and better. You are going to see it get better and better. Whose religion? There are a lot of different options. Are you like... I don't think that we would be substantially better off if we were to bring back, trying to figure out who I can, like, there are Mediterranean pagans and Norse pagans, Odinists, who live in this country, follow those faiths diligently. I don't think things would be better if we were to revert to the worship of Baal. If we were to go back to ancient Near Eastern religious practices, not Jewish, I don't think things would be better. I think the human sacrifice, Moloch, things would not be better if we brought back the religion of Moloch, the god who commands you to feed your children, to sacrifice your kids. I don't think that would be better. So it's possible that religion cannot be said to be a blanket improvement. I think it matters what religion. Man, if you want to bring more Matthew 25 to the behavior of our society and government, Mr. President, please, I beg you, more Matthew 25, more for the least of these. So, as we chart our course for the next 250 years, let us rededicate ourselves to one nation under God. No. And here's where it gets interesting, because, what would happen? What if 1 million Americans dedicated an hour a week to praying for our country and our people? As a Christian, I would be willing, in fact, I am willing, and if there are folks who want to join me, I would be willing to spend an hour a week in prayer with a community of people likewise praying for the health and well-being of our country and of our people. I can get behind that. I can do that. I think it's wildly inappropriate to ask other people to do that. I could do it. Will you join with at least 10 people to meet each week for 1 hour to pray for America? So, this was the moment that I was like, I am going to go on YouTube Live. This is my first YouTube Live experiment. I'm giving this a try. Wanted to get it set up at some point to see if it works. If you are watching this on the video on demand, if you're watching this later, and you are interested in becoming a part of a community of people who will gather remotely once a week to pray for our country, hit me up. Comment this video. I will be happy to speak further with you about what the opportunities are. Warning, I don't think it's what the president or whoever wrote this had in mind. The opportunity. As we celebrate 250 years of freedom, this is an opportunity to rededicate ourselves to the principles that gave birth to this land of liberty. Can you elucidate those principles for me, please? Which principles were you speaking of? As George Washington famously said in his farewell address, of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports. In vain would that man claim the tribute of patriotism who should labor to subvert religion and morality, the great pillars of human happiness, these firmest props of the duties of men and citizens. I was just reading Psalm 14, where God rages against the idiots who eat up his people like bread. It's very well to say that we need more religion. President Washington was talking about religion and morality, and clinging both hands to religion while abandoning morality is the worst kind of hypocrisy. It's the rankest behavior. It is the sort of thing that Jesus railed against. Religion and morality. And I say this on the stream as I believe today was finally released a photograph of the letter that President Trump wrote to Jeffrey Epstein celebrating his 50th birthday. A letter that was written, typed up, inside the outline of a nude woman. Religion and morality, team. Both. If you're going to go this hard, if you're going to go this way, you can't drop one of the two words. Religion and morality. This dedicated time of prayer is not only for our nation, but for its people, because a nation is only as strong as its citizens. Sure. In many ways, much easier for me to pray for my neighbors than for my nation. Historic prayers, sermons, presidential proclamations, etc. Interesting. I have comments about the list, and I'm working on speaking to some people about some other options. Follow the common ACTS prayer model. Adoration, contrition, thanksgiving, supplication. That's so Christian, guys. That's such a deeply Christian, like, I wonder if the authors are even aware of how presumptuous they're being. Open the prayer meeting with scripture about God's sovereignty and nations. 3 quotations. 2 from the Hebrew Bible, 1 from the New Testament. Nothing from the Bhagavad Gita. Nothing from the Quran. You can't even bother Googling other sources of Holy Writ from other faiths. Organize the time of prayer by different subjects, such as prayer for government leaders, cultural renewal, protection of freedom, families, individuals, etc. Weekly prayer challenge. Each member commits to pray daily for a specific issue or person. Pray for individuals in your community by name. Join online communities of prayer such as Hallow, Pray.com, many others. All right. Let's take account. Here's the prayers and proclamations throughout American history. And like, I'm tempted, I gotta confess, I'm tempted to like sit down with each of these. This could be, this might be my new stream. In addition to the other stuff that I'm doing, I might every week read one of these and chat about it with you all. See what you think, how you feel. The Jamestown crew, I believe, so they were English settlers. At this time, they were doing Anglican worship. So, okay, very carefully moving my soda so that I don't spill onto everything. All right, so we have here and we may need more columns, we'll see, but we do only need these many rows. All right, so this is Jamestown, Christians, Anglicans, and this was in Virginia in 1607. Next, the embarkation of the pilgrims. So both of these are going to be, so this was in English, or this was in England. For the pilgrims upon their journey to the New World. So I'm going to assume, yeah. Guys, I know this is the sort of thing that makes me look snooty, but for crying out loud. The separatist pilgrims seeking religious self-determination outside the Church of England and their Puritan contemporaries laid early foundations for a distinctly American civic culture. All right. And it's challenging. I sort of have to like, so this was in England. They were Christians. Let's call them Puritans. All right, so this is Pilgrim Departure. And this was in England in 1620. And then the next year, boy, let's talk about mythology. All right. And let's talk about the fact that the Puritans, like, they're felt, but they don't exist anymore. You cannot go, that I know of, to a Puritan church. Now I'm going to have to Google that separately. Thanks, team. All right. So the next year at Plymouth, slight modifications made to update the spelling in modern American vernacular. All right. First prayer in Congress. Oh, from Christ, Philadelphia. Reverend Jacob Duché. All right. Okay. And this is legit interesting. Like, the thing of, this is a history of prayer in the United States. Quite interesting. All right. First prayer to Congress. Christian. Oh, hey, guess what? It's the Anglicans again. And location was Philadelphia in 1774. Got to stop that loading. Government issued calls to prayer from founding fathers and public leaders. All right. Newburgh. 15 proclamations. All right. I'm going to just grab this one. But this is, so Washington is an Anglican. Soon to be Episcopalian. Are you noticing a theme yet? And this was in 1783. When, again, it's worth noting that, contrary to what's in the table of contents, he wasn't president at the time. General orders. Abiel Leonard. Connecticut chaplain. No particular information on Leonard's denomination. Congregational. Hey, somebody who's neither Anglican nor Puritan. Guys, we have interfaith. And this was, again, 1783, I believe, was the date that I saw here. Ah, sorry, this is 1775. So we're out of order, which, you know, considering some of the other... Oh my God, in obedience to the call of thy providence, I've engaged myself and plighted my faith. All right, prayer at the Constitutional Convention in 87, chaired by Washington. Reverend William Rogers, I believe a Presbyterian, although I'm going to have to check it. 4th of July, 1787. Baptist, says the AI, but I would like to. Baptist clergyman. All right. So that's 1787 prayer for the Constitutional Convention. And I'm interested in the subtext that they're tucking in here of prayer is transformative for the community of people who hear it. When the convention resumed, there was a noticeable shift in tone. Debate gave way to compromise. Tell me more. Also, citation needed. All right. Jewish blessing for the government in honor of President Washington. Finally. Congregation Beth Shalom in Richmond, Virginia. All right. So hard to say, like, I am not as familiar with Jewish religious history and their sort of non-denomination, like whatever their system is. But let us say, and we're calling that the Jewish prayer, Jewish blessing for the government. Jewish. Good heavens. Richmond, I think I saw. And this was, again, 1789. Anyone else noticing that there's awful, like, watch. There was a reason I included this in my little process here, and it's because I think the distribution is going to be real interesting. All right, 200? Yeah, see, now that's nice and big. All right. John Quincy Adams, Independence Day Address. Christian, tell me more. And I don't know anything about John Quincy Adams' religion. Ooh, we're a little bit zoomed in there. Succeeded. Personal details. United First Parish Church. Unitarian Universalists. Who, God love them. And I would be, when did those unite? Parish Church of Quincy. The old Church of Braintree, Puritan Congregationalist church when first established. In the mid 18th century, it became Unitarian, and then UU in the 20th. So at the time, it was Unitarian, and the Unitarians are gonna get Christian from me for now. And this is 18. What did I say? 36. 1837. I'm fascinated by this next one. President Lincoln urged the American people to examine their relationship with God and scriptures and to conform their lives to that standard. All right. 1863. I could just be doing this. Ah, so smart. Do you notice that they're kind of under? Like, they said that this was the Anglicans. They said that this was the Puritans. They sort of said that was the Puritans. They didn't say for the Constitutional Convention. They didn't say specifically for these public prayer things. They didn't say for this one. They didn't say for this one. They didn't say for this one. That's striking to anybody else. Called it out. Yeah. Let's all learn together. Abraham Lincoln, 16th president. Resting place in the Lincoln tomb. Ah. Okay, so his parents were Baptists. Himself, Lincoln never joined a church, although he attended First Presbyterian in Springfield and also New York Ave Pres in DC. So we're going to call him Presbyterian Star. Nice to see my crew getting a shout out. But again, not in the thing. And this is from Washington, D.C., almost certainly. Surprised they, yeah, okay. FDR for D-Day. All right. FDR. Churchill, 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 Churchill. Hmm. An Episcopal boarding school. Went to Harvard. New Yorker. Okay. Episcopalian. Oh, hey, see, this is going to make things a little bit easier. All right, so that is the D-Day thing in 1944. So now we did a nice little jump here into the 20th century. Almost like something like 80 years between the two. And we're going to call this Anglican for now, for reasons. Also, didn't get a call out. 1944. Armed Forces Prayer Book in 1951. General Omar Bradley, for whom the tank is named. Central Christian Church in Moberly. Central Christian Church. Churchill. Moberly, Missouri. Central Christian Church. About Us. Independent. This is our first non-denominational. Interesting. All right. So that was... And the Armed Forces Prayer Book is sort of clearly just Christian, comma, all other. Like... That's Missouri. I don't know that Bradley was there at the time, but... All right. Armed Forces Prayer Book in 51. Dwight Eisenhower's inauguration. Dwight Eisenhower. Wow. Till 1952. So in 1953, he's baptized in the Presbyterian Church in 1953. All right. Uh-huh. I think I knew Eisenhower was Presbyterian. I only kind of knew Lincoln was. Disproportionately represented. And his inauguration would have been in Washington, D.C. And this was in 1953. And it's weird that they say, and his other stuff, but like... All right. Do you guys notice this is capitalized? It bothers me. Also in 1953. And these are great. All right. It's also worth noting, this is the one prayer listed that was offered by not a white man, and there's not a single woman on this list. Not one. I'm putting that with confidence, but I'm not as sure as I could be. Yeah. This is also 1953, it said. Okay. You had a long way to go. All right. This is one of my favorite things. I loved this. There are 101 Bibles on the surface of the moon. I'm fond of this. Like, this is a moment that is very meaningful, and as a Presbyterian, like specifically that Aldrin took communion on the moon, and I'm so glad that he was able to do that, and I'm so glad that I am glad that the government let him do that and let him talk about it. And I'm also really glad that nobody had to. No one was forced. No one was coerced. 1968. And the three of them, I don't know, like, it would be harder than usual to track. Well, maybe we can find Frank Borman. Like, it's widely known about Aldrin. He only died in 23. Episcopal Church. Churchill. Yes. So we're going to presume that he's Episcopalian, which I'm content with. All right. And that is one of the three. Okay, Billy Graham at the 1969 presidential inauguration, which we still do prayers at the presidential inaugurations. We just do like a bunch of them. And Billy Graham, was important in doing a whole thing, and he was an ordained Baptist minister. Yep. And finally, last one. I believe President Bush was a Southern Baptist, but I could very well have been wrong. Methodist. All right. Let me see if I can pull this off. Insert chart. Okay. Yeah, but I don't want it in a column. I want it in a timeline if I can. Scatter. Yeah, that looks all right. Scatter chart, but I want more control over the series, I think. Year. No, I want the vertical axis. That's what I want. Scale factor. Minimum value is, like, let's call it 1600. And the maximum value is 2025. No, not 20,025. You device. All right. Does anyone else think that it's weird that it goes boop 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 boop, and it's not that weird that there's nothing between 1600 and 1787, 1774. That's like, I buy that. Does anyone else think it's weird that there's nothing in this zone nothing like what was happening in the US in the late 19th century. And then nothing between Apollo and the present day except 9/11. And there's nothing Muslim. And there's one Jewish. And there are no women. I think that this whole thing is dumb and bad. I'm angry about it. And I am not kidding. I think that I may well, I'm gonna pop onto some of my other spaces and ask around if there are other people that want to weekly organize to pray for an hour for our country and our people, and use that organization to resist the encroachment of a Christianity that I do not claim and will not support into public life in this country. That's it. That's the stream. Thanks nobody for joining me. Not that it's y'all's fault, but there will be a video on demand, and I might pull some shorts. But this is the end. I am going to close with a word of prayer. God of love and light, God of Abraham and of Isaac and of Jacob, God who healed the sick, gave sight to the blind, fed the hungry, I ask that you bless this nation, these United States, that you show us a new way and a new path, or that you show us an old way and an old path, a way that involves obedience to your teachings, to succor the widow and the orphan and the poor, the disabled and the stranger among us. Yes, that you transform us to be ever more brought into likeness, if not identity, with Christ, that we may be filled, completed, transformed, ever more into the people that you call us to be. I ask your blessings on this nation. Please give to us wisdom and patience and a hunger for peace. Lift up all these things in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Thanks, everyone.